Hey, Joe.
Hi, guys.
How are you?
Good.
Look at this.
Hi,
So
Joe.
we,
Hi,
so-
Joe.
Hi, Dan.
Good to see you.
I'm doing great. Getting some help from Eric Harms, member of our sales team and marketing department and tech whiz guy. So
What is he filming you with?
he's holding the camera.
Is it possible we can get him to hold it the other way, landscape, instead of upright?
Yes. He would say, who's asking me which way you would want it?
There we
There
go.
we go.
Look at that.
There
Hey,
you go.
Steve, are you
Now-
going to
now
show
you're
us the
bigger than
tone?
life.
Steve
Show
is
us the
back in his
tone
bench
balls.
right at the moment, but we're going to go see him first. We'll go see him first.
Okay.
Do we need have we actually started?
I'm recording, but it's okay to have kind of a soft entry here. In about probably 5 minutes, I'll let Doug know that it's time to do an introduction, and then we'll get going. But
Okay.
how's your
We're still
time?
a few minutes away.
How
Maybe I should get Steve out. I'll get Steve out here.
how is your time today? Do you have limited time?
Not super limited. No, I mean, I got to go home at 5:30, but
Okay.
other than that, and maybe my boss might, after a couple hours,
Okay.
say something. But no. So to stop joking. I got some time.
Okay.
How long do you guys want to do this?
Oh, well, we usually go at least an hour, and then if the jibber jabber gets especially poignant, then we just kind of like lose track of time and talk guitars so
I definitely got an hour.
if
I
you
can
get in
definitely
if you
talk
get
for
into it and you're
longer.
like if you get into it and you feel like you got to go or whatever, just let us know and we'll get you an egress.
Or if we're boring the living daylights out of you.
Oh my God.
That's I imagine that's a possibility, but
If your
I
boss
don't foresee it. I don't foresee it.
if your boss does show up, just tell her we're doing an interview on instructing how to get people to use the website and order things.
Yeah, and which we are. I mean,
Well, true.
we're going to use this. We're going to use this for sure if we can. In some
How is
some
your
way.
how is the Wi-Fi there? How far can we wander with this?
Probably all over the shop which was what my plan was.
Okay.
So we're out here in the repair shop lobby, which I figured was a place to start if you were coming into the shop. Start, and I thought we'd start here and then wander all the way through the shop and meet the team, and we could end up in my little cubby hole in the back and look at some of my stuff. And
Sure.
there we go. That's my plan. That's about as much as I planned right there.
Okay.
Hey, Joe,
Mm-hmm.
can you show us the tone ball collection?
Oh yeah, that's part of the thing. That's one of the reasons why I started out here, Dan. Because the lobby has recently been feng shuied by Steve. It's just sort of his touch here, and of course, he is the creator of the tone ball collection. We helped him out. We've got the diagram and the fretboard journal story, and it's been a while, but we haven't collected too many new ones of late. But that's where I was going to start, right about there. So
We're starting at tone balls.
we could.
Oh my
We might as
God.
well start up with a bang, real.
I know.
I should have sent you guys the tone ball we took out of a guitar about 4 or 5 months ago. It was about the size of a cat.
Wow. We would have liked to have seen that. We did a tone ball hoax to one of the guys way back when, where we collected dirt and dust from all over and made one about the size of a softball, stuffed it into the guitar that he was working on, and he was like, "Oh my God, you guys got to see this!" But it was fake. It was fake. We had it. But anyhow, let's grab Steve and bring him out here. I'll go grab Steve.
Okay, then we'll get started.
Yeah.
Go way out here. Follow you.
Way out here.
All right.
Yeah.
So when this starts, you want to just pin the elderly camera and leave it on them? A spot like that, or no?
Yeah, probably it's gonna be better if you're talking to have it go back and forth between you and them. But if it becomes annoying, then we can pin. Yeah, you know what? Let's pin their camera.
Okay.
Is the person running the camera? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
That's
Is
Eric.
is there any possibility of like monopoding or tripoding that? Do you guys have a tripod around? The only thing is like it's not the shakiness, it's just the shakiness will wind up Zoom's compression algorithm, I think, likes it stable. Like I don't really care about this.
Yeah, I've got it on a stabilizer.
Okay,
Since
cool.
we're moving around, I was just going to do it that way. I'll
Okay,
try
cool.
to not move very much.
That's
There
cool.
definitely could be times where we could, at different stops where we could, set it on a bench nearby. But
Okay.
Eric's a pro, man.
Then I think I'm gonna do what Doug suggested, and I'm gonna pin that camera.
Actually, we could start right there.
Actually, you know what, Doug, I'm gonna wait until after you do the introduction, and then we'll
Okay.
Prepare the whole lobby.
stretch it out.
Probably ought to hit the Gibson log there, before we go in. Go ahead.
Hey, Steve.
Hi, who are you?
Doug.
Doug. Hi, Doug.
My baby boy.
Oh my God, Dad,
Yeah,
is that you?
Dan's in there.
That's right.
Dan and Ian and Doug.
Oh,
I believe. Is that
okay.
it?
Wow.
Dan and Ian and Doug, is that it?
Oh, we got almost 40 people here today.
Oh my gosh.
So all of them.
You three are like the big three, the panel,
Oh,
Derek. Right.
I don't-
Well, if you're talking about size, I'm definitely getting there.
how many times a week do you eat at that diner?
Only when people come and visit.
Okay, how many times a week are people coming to visit you so you can go eat at that diner? Now we
Did we
understand.
start? Are we
Why-
starting now? Tell us when we're starting.
Doug, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Elderly guys, are you ready?
We're ready.
On your mark, get set, go, Doug.
Welcome, everybody. We have a great interview today, a great AMA, as we call them. I met Joe, Steve, Carlos, and Mike up at Northwoods, and I knew Joe Konkoly by reputation, of course, and Steve as well. And we all got to know each other up there and hit it off. And Sharon and I had an invitation to come down and visit them at Elderly on our way out of town, which we eagerly jumped on because Elderly has been one of these places that's been part and parcel of the musical instrument world for as long as I can remember. And never having been there, we jumped at the chance, obviously, to visit. And I was absolutely blown away. So unfortunately, you had a storm up there, and Joe couldn't meet us that day.
Yeah, like the storm of the last 100 years. Yeah, that ripped right through my little town west of Lansing and right on just north of this area. But
Yeah.
did not hit the store here. Yeah, that was a pretty crazy few days for me.
You finished with all your repairs at the house?
I don't do any repairs at the house at the moment. My home shop is in a bit of disarray after being kind of on the shelf for a couple of years. So, oh, the repairs. I see what you mean. Not yes. Thank you for clarifying it. I got super lucky, and I had the only limb that I had down in my yard was right in the middle of my fairly large backyard. No damage. So I had to get a chainsaw. I have an electric chainsaw. I know. Chainsaw with it. And it took me, so I had to wait till the power came back on to clean up. But I did. So anyhow, we're here in the lobby. We should move out of the lobby because I see customers. We're right up here under the repair sign. That's what we do. We're the repair guys. And the lobby has been recently painted and redecorated. Steve did most of the redecorating here. So we got a few things out here. And of course, you guys have already asked about this display right here. The tone balls, of course. And they've been this way for, let's see, what is there a date on this? Summer 2006 is the date of the Fretboard Journaler. So it's been
The first one.
Yeah, the very first one. Yeah, it's been a while, but Steve and other members of the team, myself included, collected these things out of various old guitars. Just everybody knows what a tone ball is, don't you? We got our little display that tells you which tone balls came out of which guitars. The author, Steve Olson, have anything else to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, it started as a joke and then it got a little interesting just by the, like the ones that were compacted by rolling around inside the cover plate and the cone. So they spin around like this and pack up real tight. It's wacky. You find them under volume knobs, little ones. You get bugs. You probably date the instrument and place it geographically by
The
the
DNA.
lights and the whatever the species are. It's crazy. Sweater fuzz. Way button head. Nice.
Yeah.
Is there anyone in there that's,
Kind of fun.
Those things.
is there any one of those balls that's like,
to redecorate was to pull out some old photos that we have. Some, nicely framed stuff from when we used to do what we call the UIL, the used instrument list. And there's this photo over here. Pretty iconic group of folks. Not too long on that tour, taken from that tour not too long before Stevie Ray was killed in that helicopter accident. And yeah, just some nice photos.
So
Big Chief.
up here, we got your intake area where you do all your evaluations coming in.
Yes, that's correct. This is where we would do that. It's a computer counter. We just resurrected this lovely piece of Gibson memorabilia, which we purchased in an auction with a group of other parts. Is that the story, Steve?
It came from a fellow that ended up buying like a garage load of Gibson parts and things. A local guy, he shows up at local guitar shows. And he builds from the pieces that he got during that. And this was like, it was in pieces. So it was a display, or not a display, but I mean, you use it to test electronics on the two strips here. You can just lay up caps or switches or whatever you want to do, clip them in with the pickups. So
yeah,
it's like the center of a SG taken, just, I don't know why they had it having such a huge double chunk of mahogany like that, and then just a raw SG neck in the same period. So
So we pulled it out of the back room, set it on there. So let's enter the shop proper here now.
Sure. So as we're getting started with this tour here, I want to focus on you two guys for a little bit.
Okay.
Is it easy to talk out here, or are we being disturbing customers in any way?
We
at the
let's
moment,
go over to your bench. We're gonna take you over to Steve's bench.
Okay.
walk this way. Walk this way.
The last thing we want to do is disturb customers.
Now we won't disturb customers. We'll just disturb the other repairmen trying to do their jobs.
Okay. So
It's work today.
as I was saying earlier, Elderly is one of these outfits that I've been aware of since the late 70s, early 80s. we used to get a catalog once a quarter from them, and ogle over everything in the catalog and order all sorts of great stuff. And I have to admit, it wasn't until this past August that when we showed up there for the visit, that I was struck with how not only enormous, but how important an institution Elderly has been for so many years. So there's always a place that we were aware of, being in the business, and of course guitar players and then repair people and so forth. But just the enormity of the operation that you guys got going there, and the amount of dedication and not just talent that has to be employed in order to keep that machine running.
Yeah,
So
we've
how
got
long-
a hell of a team here right now, and it's been a long storied history of a lot of folks before us.
Sure. How long have you been at the helm there, Joe?
I have been here for 37 years. Count them.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a long time. And we've been here for 34, so not too long after I arrived. So when I started here, TJ Thompson was the head repair person.
That was 37.
The shop was upstairs, in what is now the electric guitar room. And it was just TJ and I when I started, just the two of us. But we fairly quickly expanded to 4 of us in the shop at that point. Yep. Steve, myself, John Kane, and John Joswiak was part-time, and Stan Werbin spent a fair amount of time in the shop. He did and still is our expert appraiser, but he was the whole appraisal department. We have an appraisal department at this point. He was the whole appraisal department. He did everything, greeted the customers, made offers on instruments, bought the instruments, described the instruments, prepared them for inclusion in our UIL, the used instrument list. So he did everything. So he actually dabbled in some violin repair at that point, because he had a regular space in the shop, and he'd come in and price the instruments and describe them, and dabble in violin repair under TJ's tutelage.
So you came on about 37 years
Yeah,
ago.
he even earned a certificate from TJ. That's right. And
So-
prior to TJ, there was Bart Ryder, of course, was one of the, and there were people in and around that too. Greg Biller, Larry Stevens, quite a array of folks. A lot of talent, yeah, and a lot of talent since I've been here too.
So
I've outlasted
you
a
came
few
in
folks.
37 years ago. You came in, and it was just you and TJ. And how soon was it before you ramped up to like 4 people?
Almost immediately.
Okay.
Actually, now that I think about it, there was TJ and I and Scott Hosmer. Scott Hosmer was working at the shop. He was with us for a few years. And then John Joswiak came on part-time, and John Kane came on full-time. And Steve Olson came on full-time.
And then Steve.
That all happened within 3 years. So, yeah. And like I said, almost immediately TJ and I was like a blip of a few months before we started adding.
Okay. And Steve, you came on about 3 years later. You said you were part of that initial ramp up of folks.
Yeah, I came back from California in '89. Worked at Jackson Guitars and Fender, and came back to get married. And TJ called at the last minute and offered an interview, so that worked out really well.
Okay.
I wasn't set in my ways, and I was able to, learn from the best.
Good
So
stuff.
I've had a lot of good teachers, so I've been really lucky there. Yeah, I got in at a good time. I think it was a good crew and learned a lot. So
We could tell that story where that you might notice there was a special emphasis on that for us. that Steve was not set in his ways. That's one of the, if I may, that's one of the things that TJ said to him when he looked at one of his Roberto Van guitars. He, with a slightly raised eyebrow, said, "Well, I hope you're not real set in your ways," which was a nice way to say, "What is going on here?" Yeah. Yeah.
It wasn't a Martin Cup.
Yeah. So he didn't know what to do with it. Yeah.
was a pretty funky, hippies in the desert kind of guitar. So anyway, I wasn't. So I learned from him, you know, as far as the correct way to do things. Hopefully, some of it anyway. And
His stamp is still right here in this shop for sure.
Sure, I'm sure. So I think, so in a sense, we're actually talking to two of the original members of the band here.
Yeah. Sure. And that's one of the things that we got to do at North was get the band back together. Steve and TJ and I got to hang out for the first time in a while. It was really great. It was a great opportunity. In addition to meeting new folks, but reconnecting with a number of old folks all the way back to the original band.
Sure. So how long was TJ at the helm before he went off to one on his own?
I started in '87 and he left sometime in '93.
Okay.
7 years?
It seems like 7 years. Maybe he left earlier than that. Certainly '93 is when Paul Schatzko came on, and shortly after that, '94 was when Dave Lindahl came on, and so TJ might have been here till '92, probably. I think it's more correct, like 5 years. Yeah, about 5 years. Mm-hmm.
And going back that far, was there kind of an understood, you know, like TJ was the foreman of the shop and everybody handed up to him in that sense in terms of looking for direction? Or was that just a loose understanding? Was that?
No, his title was the manager of the shop.
Okay.
So he ran the people business side of the shop. We were the employees. He was the manager, and it was also that same sort of relationship as far as the repairs that were going on. So, for instance, when I started like actually every single person in here, Steve included. We all started in the same way. TJ did the customer repairs, and I did the store stock. I did all the new instruments, and we had as you know, Doug, from your visit here, we have a large, we have a lot of used inventory at the moment. And when I started, it was a very similar thing. We had 800 instruments upstairs in what we call the ballroom in the same building that the showroom is in, and that's one of the reasons I got hired, so that we could start chipping away at those instruments. It's things that Stan had purchased over the previous years. And
that ballroom is still pretty full.
there was a lot of guitars there, for sure. And a lot of very cool stuff. So there was that, to get back to your question, there was that separation of duties there. But eventually we got to the point where we started, not too long before TJ left, we started to do something that we continue to do to this day, which is have, multiple people dealing with the customer repairs, because the customer repair situation, through word of mouth and TJ's reputation, started to expand beyond he couldn't do all the repairs fast enough. And of course, he was working outside of Elderly Instruments at his home shop. That's when he went back to his relationship with Eric Schoenberg and Schoenberg Guitars. And that was probably the biggest thing that he did at first. He made all the pyramid bridges that went on the Schoenberg Guitars. And so he was very busy, in addition to Elderly, also outside the shop. So, and our customer repair base just started to expand. And we also
shipping in from posts because
we were cheap. We were cheap then, and so people were sending us instruments from far and wide. That's of course one of the things that Steve brought with him was a awareness of where we stood and how we could grow. For starters by pricing our repairs and and our instrument prices also, so that we were not thought of as just a Midwest store with a tri-state area reach. Yeah, it really started then with TJ, where we were getting, of course, Eric shown, but Eric would ship TJ guitars and things, things like that from his, because their relationship was still fairly close. And well, it's close, but I mean, their business relationship was still ongoing. So, yeah, that was the seeds of what we do now, where multi-member team, all doing customer repairs, dealing with instruments that get shipped in from across the country and the world for us to consign for folks, and the repairs that we do to get those in shape, to get them up to our level and our customers' level of expectation. And we started to look at the used instruments that we bought, where Stan, instead of doing the whole thing himself, we started a process where every instrument that we bought was run through the shop and an estimate was written up about what repairs this instrument would need and how that money and repairs would impact the value of the guitar to allow Stan to make an offer to the customer. So we started documenting not the new instruments, but every single used instrument and customer instrument came our way as far as what repairs might be needed and how we would proceed through those instruments because it impacted and of course through that we started to get many more instruments. We did eventually get through that whole pile of instruments.
We were able to see TJ do the reconstruction things and the top of the mark as far as the quality of the work that he was doing. He built like an AM45 Deluxe, and then just like hand it to me and say, play this for you take a guitar home. It's like kind of a holy grail thing without having to say holy grail, I guess. And just feel it open up in your arms, because all it needed was to be put back together.
Beat on it for a
And
while.
just beat it. Yeah, just play it and get it working. So to experience things like that firsthand and know what's possible. I mean, even if you're entertaining yourself, it's a pretty big deal. And the rest of the time, you just sit here and the good stuff comes to us. So we're pretty lucky that way.
Well, let's take a minute just to talk about the business model that's at work there, because that's one of the things that fascinated me, is that there are so many levers working at the same time. You have a retail repair shop where people are coming in with instruments just for their everything from routine maintenance to whoops, I backed over it in the driveway and everything in between. So you have this full service repair counter that people are coming in with instruments, and we're talking about a lot of instruments. You guys see a heck of a lot of instruments a year just on the retail side. But then you also have new instruments that are being sold in the showroom that have to be rinsed through the repair shop because they got to be set up, they got to be made to play well and deal with whatever problems there are. There are also, you're doing warranty stuff as well for a number of manufacturers. So that's a third lever right there. And that would be both on the inventory side as well as the consumer bringing in whatever brand of instrument that would be covered under a warranty. Then you have used inventory, which is owned by the shop, which is common in the vintage world because there are a lot of places like a Grun or what used to be Mandolin Brothers where they own the inventory, and then the repair shop is there to service that inventory and bring it to saleable condition for showroom condition. But then there's even a fifth lever, if I'm counting properly at this point, that you have instruments also being sent to you for consignment, which is, here, sell this for me, So you have to appraise the instrument when it comes in, which a good portion of the appraisal means it's got to go into the cul-de-sac of the repair department to determine what needs to be repaired to bring it to saleable condition, and what should or shouldn't be done in order to make it the most lucrative sale for that customer as possible. And okay, so you have this instrument would sell for X, but if we do this, that, and the other thing, that'll bring it up to here, which you certainly gained have an added value to the repairs. And of course, that's being billed to the customer on a consignment contract. So you've got like all of these different levers going, and you have, what are you up to 8 people now in the shop? Is that right?
Right now we are at 8 people, and yeah. And
How long?
two-
How
and,
long?
But we were as high as 11.
Oh wow! When did you peak at 11? How far long ago was that?
A while ago, but not super long, like 6-8 years ago. Yep. That included, so we had, at that point, when we peaked at 11, we had 8 people in the repair shop, including Steve and myself, and 3 guys who who were our setup department. So at that point in time, we had taken one of the levers and separated it off a little bit. We had a team who did the new instrument setup and several other jobs for us, and they were different from the repair guys. And but still under the umbrella of the repair shop.
Sure.
And the manager, doing all the people management stuff in addition to all of the technical repair stuff too, and coordinating all that.
So and Steve looks like he's getting more and more stressed the more I the more I drone on about all the levers.
Actually, we have a flow
Let me
chart.
stop here.
We've had it drawn up. If you want to visualize it, I could get it printed out.
I think I just put that one in the recycling bin. Sorry.
But
It's about this long and about that deep.
So yes, I mean that has been the challenge of the business itself.
Yeah.
In a microcosm, I don't know about a micro, but reflected in the repair shops, a lot of stuff going on at once and stuff to coordinate.
Yeah, before we talk about how to coordinate that, I want to pause here for just a moment, because we're also not only witnessing, kind of like original members of the band, but we're also talking about a period of time where there's a changing of the guard going on. Correct?
That is correct.
So, you're leaving at the first of the year to pursue your own deal. After 37 years, some people would ask you, what took you so long?
Yeah, totally. You wouldn't be the only person, especially certain members of my family, who might have asked that question. And I have not had a real good answer for it at times. But yeah, I'm going to be retired at the end of the year, and Steve's taking the reins, which has already happened. At this point in time, I am actually working part-time. I'm down 4 days a week to 30 hours a week or so. And Steve is assuming the reins of trying to control all those levers, spin all those plates at once. One of the main things that we're doing is to eliminate as many plates as possible to make that job a little more realistic.
Sure.
And when TJ left, I assumed that mantle. I became the manager, and the job, as I had a nice long learning curve possibility there. I sort of invented the job, and the business changed quite a bit during that period. So I got the opportunity to learn that job and reshape it as the business grew. Steve's jumping into the whirlwind at a pretty high level with expected to start running right off the bat. So but that's one of probably the main thing we've been doing for the past 2 years, even ever since I picked the retirement date, which was I think a year and a half ago.
So when you say you've been doing that for the past 2 years, you're talking about walking that transition together, trying to figure out how to make it as smooth as possible. Because of course, you got Steve who's coming in, he's been there for 35 years, so he damn well knows how this place works and functions. For whatever ideas he may have that he wants to try, and incorporate those, as well as, look to you for, and I'm sure that, it was before 2 years ago that he was asking the question of, how the fuck do you do this to you?
Yeah.
And I still have that question because
Finding some for
when you-
answer. Yeah, for sure. And he's got a number of great ideas that are in the works right now that will sort of help us to streamline the business to focus more on the work being the work, and also to make us more money, to keep the business afloat, because the retail music business is very challenging. It's a whole different world from when we started, and even in the middle there, it's changed. It's flipped over several different times. You've got all kinds of different things. So, and we've been working on pretty much the same model, in one manner of speaking, since I started. Where the repair, just as you described, the repair guys look at, inspect all the new instruments. We help to estimate for all the consignments and purchases we make, and we work closely with the appraisal department to figure out what repairs to do and what repairs have been done, what's original and what's not, and how to proceed through that. Plus the customers coming through the door, just the local music trade folks who we work with on a close basis, plus the sort of the international consignment business as work. It's, that's we get a lot of instruments shipped to us to be consigned, and those are very much like the customer repairs or the used repairs, but they're their own unique thing too. And working with the appraisal guys to determine instrument values and how to maintain those values, and what things we must ask of a consignment customer. You must do this repair. You can't, where all the gray areas are, and trying to juggle the just the management of people through that lens.
Sure. So when you're managing a team of now 8, and it has been as much as 11 people in the shop, how do you deal with all of those different pipelines? I don't know if there is an answer to this question, but I'm assuming if there is one, you got it.
Well, one of the ways that we
to the shop with different people, do you assign all the repairs to all of the different people, or is it?
There's a certain amount of the customer repair trade that comes up to the counter that gets dealt with organically, as it were, by who's scheduled on what days, what comes in that day, and who is qualified to go to the counter to collect those instruments and take them in. And from that, we have a regular clientele, and that clientele gets a guy, and so everybody here has gathered a group of customers that always comes to them on a regular basis, and that can be anywhere from, it's usually 15, 20 people, as a group, that regularly come in, but people who are playing out professionally or playing regularly enough and collecting and have a small, a more than one instrument in their collection. And they also bring friends and neighbors in for that, with that same type of thing. And you are their guide. So that gets divvied up by that. And from that, also, you find which people do gravitate towards what kind of work. Everybody develops a specialty, either from, and that specialty usually starts with what do you love? What kind of music do you love? What are the instruments that are played in that music? And do you have the skills to service those instruments. And then there are situations like both Steve and I ran into where I do a lot of banjos, mandolins. Steve did a lot of resonator instruments. This is especially, I mean, where we both started. You know, I started with acoustic guitars and some electric guitars, and Steve was electric guitars and some acoustic guitars. But we both know a lot more than we ever cared to about banjos and auto harp and dulcimers and all kinds of other things. And then just the talent pool that we would get from the repairmen in the shop, that those specialties and that kind of parsing out of different where everybody is expected to know the basics on everything that we sell, from auto harps through zitters, A to Z, and everything in between. Know the basics about that, so you can set up and inspect all the new instruments that come in, and then from there, but really the meat and potatoes of the shop is acoustic and electric guitars, setup, fretwork, refrets, bridge reglues, neck resets, pickup installations, the standard stuff that you all do too, you know, so part of the question is, part of it happens organically by just being aware of the talent and areas of expertise of the people that are in here, and then finding the niches and the empty holes there and encouraging people to dive into that hole and take that up themselves, and nurturing that type of thing. And then we've had various computer systems over these years that is each one developed, the way to organize, to keep track of everything and who should do what and who decides who gets to do what. So the basic way was that the new instruments are there and everybody has to do their share. Go over and grab some of them. Tell me how many you did. You're not doing enough. You know, you need to do more. We started with that. With how many do we do? How many do we have left to do? Let's count all those. I'm a big counter. I'm a numbers guy. And so we would count all that stuff, and that's actually that's one of the things I've tried to tell Steve. What is it, managing this place? It's counting how many things we fixed and counting how many things we have left to do, and making sure they get done, and then moving guitar cases from here to there. That's my job. That's what's your job. I move lots of guitar cases. I keep my trim shape from moving, you know, selling banjos from the stop shelf, walking across the shop, giving one to Kyle, two to Mike, you know. And so at one point, the manager handed everything out, but always along the way, there was an organic part to it where here's the work. Let's all dive in, see what we got. And very variations on that theme of different levels of me handing things out, handing things to my assistant manager to hand things out. And then once you hand them out, did they get done? Did they get done properly? Who did them? How is he doing? Oh, he should learn this part. He needs to get better at that part. All that sort of stuff.
And so how much autonomy does everybody working in the shop have in being able to select things that they would rather see on their benches?
Quite a bit, I'd like to think. That's the way that's the way I liked it when it was coming to me, and that's the way that I started to manage. Partly because I didn't know how to manage, and I needed people to dive in and grab stuff because I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to delegate, didn't know how to manage, and I had to learn on the job. And so that's always been a big part of it in my mind, is that autonomy for people to understand the concepts of what we're trying to do and then work towards that.
It's also okay to say no. If you don't want to work on something, find somebody that will.
Yeah.
What are you pointing to there? What's on the bench there?
It'd be a 6-string Olympic bass with a synth pickup. So,
Okay.
Tell Evan Gluck he can settle down.
So Steve, look what I'm holding, a 5-string alembic. I just dropped this off.
Got to be by one. Do you have a synth pickup on yours, buddy?
Will by the end of the day, no.
Can you make yours sound like a flute?
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, was so a fair amount of autonomy, and that helped to keep the train on the track and moving forward when you're off in the various corners doing other things, and knowing again, this is how many we have to do, and there are how many people. That means each of you, this is some simple division, and that push and pull. That's something that the computer systems have done for us, and that we could focus on different levers at different times.
And you're running what? Like what if I remember correctly, you're actually running a couple or three different.
We are at this point. We went from we had one system. Well, when I first got here in '87, the first computer system that was was in the birthing stage, and it was and Stan wrestled it to the ground.
They used software from a car repair place.
I think so. I don't know.
At that point,
Anyhow.
it was 3 years old.
Yeah. We had that for 40 years. And then we had a very large system that did everything, was all interconnected for 5 years. And now we've that's part of, again, of what this transition has been about, is we've transitioned again into a suite of smaller apps that do everything for us and are all coordinated by our IT team, but one guy. And so, so we've seen that evolution too, from a DOS-based system that we had for 40 years that did everything we wanted, but would not talk to anything in the modern world. By the time we got to the point where we had to get away from it, to a very all-encompassing system that only lasted 5 years, and now we have this suite of apps, which is probably where we're going to be for a while.
Okay, because you're when we at our peak had a backlog of 400 instruments, I thought that was tremendous. I thought that was as large as but just walking through your building, there are rooms with just that number of instruments in them.
Yeah. I sometimes, many times over 37 years, I've wondered if the world needs this many guitars. And most of the time I came to the conclusion that it probably doesn't. But
Keep making more.
They keep making more.
Yeah.
Keep buying more. So when you said 400 instruments, that's just you and Sharon running that show?
Yeah, that's just Sharon, right?
Yeah. Well, that's a lot of guitars. And
Storage alone.
Yeah. And we've been in that kind of ratio before. But, so if you, two of you dealing with 400 instruments, that's 200 a piece. So with 11 people, we had a few thousand instruments. It's not all that different. So even though there's just more people here, Doug, so there's more guitars.
That's true. That's true, I suppose. So why don't we do this? Why don't we, for now, let's put a pin in where we are there now, because we've got other things to talk about. But I do want to do, some walking around and looking at everybody's workspaces, as well as the kind of the inner workings of the clock you got going on back there. Because what's really struck me was there are very few parts of that entire business that doesn't wind up with an interconnection with the repair department, which is
the hub. We are physically right in the middle of a few different buildings that are connected together, which is sort of how it just came about, that we were in this space. And everybody needs to talk to us for sure. Mm-hmm. So
let's
see this is your work day. Your work day.
Yeah.
No,
Got the old pull-out keyboard, computer, everything within our, hopefully, most everything. So, yeah, we get dug in here, and so it's nice to have a separate electronic station now. My original neck check, that's what's got the coffee pot on it. Yeah, early one. Look at that maple.
Sure.
It was made in Big Rapids.
That's right. I drove all that wood back from Grand Rapids in my van.
Yeah, you told me that, you know, a quick story about your history with Dan too, because I was mentioning it before everybody was on today that, you know, we all kind of grew up in a StewMac world thinking about, you know, when we think of Dan, or at least I do, I think very Ohio centric, but Dan's footprints are, you know, very well entrenched in those stomping grounds, and you've
Michigan legend.
yeah, you've got history with Dan as well.
Oh yeah, right up here. There's my. I don't know how many people actually got these. Dan Erlewine's Guitar Hospital certificate.
There you go.
Beat him up for that one. Tommy put that together, so he did a beautiful job. And I have a piece of paper to show for all my time.
Come see me, man.
I know, I gotta come. That's what I'm trying to figure it out. Getting through all the crazy right now.
You look great.
Oh, thanks. I don't know. Yeah, I gotta see you. Gotta see you. Say hi to Mom for me too. Thanks.
So when we moved into this room, we designed, you know, we got the graph paper out and designed workstations. And they were still generally based on that idea with each workstation had a bench, and you know, one bench you worked on,
But when you say
one area for tools, and another bench where you could put cases, and a rack for all of your work.
and this is something I noticed that,
Some area for work in progress.
yeah,
So
near
we actually
each you have, sorry, near each bench, this is something I noticed that was really cool as well. Near each bench, you have racks that are close by, so
Steve,
work get distributed. Guys don't have to walk too far to get to their work. You know, so when you say when we moved into this room, what's when? How
so about the time TJ left, we were able to move into this larger space. Right around 92, 93. No, 94, 93, 94.
After they tied the buildings.
Yeah, 93, 94.
Yeah.
Is when that happened. And this used to be an advertising agency, this part of this building. And it was a post office before that. And so when we first moved into this wall had a seamless background. So there was a big curve that went, so that, you know, the bottom corner and the top corner didn't exist. And they used to be able to bring not full cars, but large car parts in here, the photo. And,
okay.
yeah. So what's this room like? 20 by 40, something like that, I believe.
Okay.
20 by 40. Mm-hmm. Let's start walking around a little more.
Yeah, let's start walking around. We can look at
Go
everything.
this way. Go this way. Say hello to Mike. Hi, Mike.
Mike.
Hello. You guys all know Mike Haynerhoff. Mike, this used to be my space. So Steve and I, for quite a few decades, sat. Not Mike gets that privilege, but and so I moved out of this space, and Mike has made it his own. But we put slat wall up on the outside walls, which, you know, for tool and instruments, hanging stuff, which is what we have in the showroom too. Was just sort of a continuation from there. Is the volume all the way up on it?
So each workspace has this three-sided kind of arrangement to it. That's by definition.
When I started, when we started, what we had was a bench here and a bench here, and your rack was over there.
Okay.
In your rack was case storage and then 2 shelves of work in progress. And that was each workstation. And that was about this size right here. But, you know, it's changed. We got rid of those racks and just went with these upright racks. So the footprint was smaller and the work in progress went underneath your case table.
Okay.
And then each workstation just sort of nudged out and expanded into whatever areas it was. So this is all of Mike's.
All right. So, Mike, why don't you walk us around your workstation and tell us about how it's Mike centric?
Here's the computer. It's where I spend about 80% of my day. No. This is it. Let's see. Here's my tiny drawer full of tiny pieces of wood that are very useful. I know Ian likes this kind of stuff here.
Tell us more about the drawer. Tell us about the guitar that the handle fell off of over there too.
What's that?
I said that guitar over there with the handle that fell off. What's going on with that thing?
This one right here.
Yeah.
This is how Ormy or how Orm, however you say it.
I think it's one.
Orm. And then this is one of those
Think Rick Turner.
cantilever adjustable neck weird things. This one was like, it came in, it had this metal bracket on here, and this was broken again, and the brake was all. It took me a minute to sort this out because I had to figure out where all the wood was missing from and how much wood I had to add back to it. But
I think
ultimately, in the
you
end,
were just pulling that and getting started on that in August when we were up there, right?
I had just taken it in.
I think you just pulled it, yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't start on yet. But in going through here is this flexible tube of plastic, or it's supposed to be rigid, but I think it's kind of flexible. And I think that's what allows these things to break so often. So I replaced that with carbon fiber in there. And then I just have this chunk of extra heel that needs to go on there. And then I just need to reshape all this, blend it all together and refinish it. And
Right.
Cool.
that's gonna be a hoop.
Thank you. Are we in jeopardy of losing Steve to going back to work if we get distracted too much, or?
I doubt it. I'll make sure he comes and finds me.
Okay.
He does somewhere. I
So let me ask another logistical question. When you say
Nothing right there. Are we done with him?
almost, I got one question. So when you say you've redesigned it a little bit to for the case storage and the guitar storage, and then you have your work in progress under your case bench there. Typically speaking, how many different projects are you juggling at the same time in your workspace there, working all of those to completion? I know it depends on what it's in for.
Yeah.
We talk.
I mean,
7
I
to
have
10
room for
guitars.
4. Yeah, 4 or 5, depending if they're apart. I can fit 2 on one, here. But I try not to have more than 4 or 5 assemblies going on at one time.
I usually think of 2 projects, guitars pulled apart. The neck is off, the bridge is off, cracks, finish work, that type of thing. 2 of those type of things at once, and then upwards of 3 smaller things that I can actually complete within a short period, and that's about all I keep running at the same time. And I think that comes partly from how we get paid every 2 weeks and trying to bill instruments within a certain period, and also too from the workspace. Just kind of 4 or 5 guitars at once, and there's always super small things where you have to drop everything and spend 30 minutes, 20 minutes, 5 minutes, working something through the we work with the sales team mostly on that stuff that just needs to be done right now because this guitar is going out the door, or it could if we tweak the truss rod, or this one fell over in the showroom and now Steve's got to fix it. Yeah, now Steve's got to fix it. All right, let's keep moving.
Oh, we got Carlos here.
We got Carlos Montserrat.
Hey, Carlos. How you doing, man? Yeah.
Hello, everybody. Well, I'm doing a banjo here.
this is one of our consignments so that Joe was talking about. And yeah, this is most stuff that I do, weird stuff. I do harps a ton. I never wanted to be a harp guy, but people is
Somebody's got to be the harp guy.
so
So Carlos's workstation has evolved a little bit. It has a little more industrial feels. He doesn't have wood. He has metals, you know, and metal work. So different workbenches and stuff. But again, the same idea. Your main workbench, another bench for the cases, your computer, for work in progress. Carlos's rack is out here. That's all there.
So everything that's on that rack is in Carlos' domain.
Yep. All these things are customer repairs.
Yeah.
We use shop flow now. So, and all these instruments that also have some shop flow stuff in it. These are all that's the quick way we designate between. These are store-owned instruments. The rest of these are customer instruments. And so I try to keep. That's one of the things that I'm still doing is handing out the store-owned instruments.
And do you differentiate between store-owned and consignment in on those?
Yes. Yeah. So consignments are both customer repairs and like the store-owned instruments. That consignments are used instruments, as the store-owned was. Ones are we're going to sell, but they still belong to the customer. So the repairs that we're doing are being paid by the customer. So they're a customer repair, but as soon as the customer pays the repair, then we put them up for sale.
Okay.
So
All right.
this is Scott Gearman. Say hello to everybody. Scott.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Scott.
How you doing?
Good.
He's sort of in the middle of the room here. This workstation evolved in a unique way too, but it's hard to remember where it started. But again, the workbench, the case bench, work in progress. The rack is right there. Tools everywhere, and everybody usually has some sort of a computer space, and then all of the available space in between something else is stored. And there's lots of community tools and supplies, sometimes stored right in your area and stuff. But,
So how do
So-
you, when you're dealing with 8 people in a shop, how do you cope with that in terms of, how much of the tools there are Scott's, how much of them are the stores? Do you have?
essentially, the idea with the tools is store owns all the tools, or the store provides tools. And
Okay.
what happens in reality is that many of the people here have a home shop. All the people here have some of their own tools, and some of those tools start creeping into your everyday workspace. Sometimes, a lot of times, what would happen is many of the tools are yours. And then when you acquire a space at home for those tools and start making, then you take them home and we start replacing those tools. Essentially, the idea is that elderly owns the tools and supplies the tools.
Okay, fair enough. There's some places that don't own the tools, and it's up to the people to bring them in.
Yeah.
So Scott, tell us about your workstation and what you got going on with your station, and what's Scott centric about yours.
I have a couple neck resets going on, an old Gibson L7 and a more modern J200 on the bottom there. I just finished up a wiring project for one of my regular customers. And so that's why I was just doing it in my workstation, was printing up the bill and getting it ready to take upstairs for him to pick up.
You designed this table.
Yeah, I did. I designed the whole layout to try to save some space.
That changed the way,
Yeah,
the
the
footprint of
footprint,
the shop, where Scott came up with the idea. Because when we had the racks that we started with, they started off at chin height, so
Okay.
that you could see everybody in the shop. And 10
we
years
started
later,
filling them up.
those went to ceiling height. You couldn't see anything, which is what we have now. It's kind of what we have now. But we got a ton more instruments and more floor space in the shop by going to these upright racks, so the floor footprint is smaller. And then we took the work in progress away from the cases and just said, hey, we got room down here to work with that. And of course, we try to have somewhere for instrument hanging, you know, everywhere for everybody too.
The ones without cases.
Yeah, or the impossible work in progress.
Yeah, no, that was,
Yeah. Okay, we're still moving.
Okay, thank you, Scott.
This, this actually,
This I love.
Arnold Hennig, who was one of our regular repair guys, built this. And this was part of his workstation. And when he retired, yes, someone has retired here before me. We usurped this for now this is a community tools.
This is like
Filled with Stu Mac stuff, Dan. Filled with Stu Mac stuff. You know, there's Stu Mac 200 bushing press. Some TJ stuff. Anyhow, this is sort of
on top. You got basically a community go bar deck there, right?
it could be used as that. Yes, definitely. We don't usually use that. This, and when Arnold had it at his workstation, this was his work in progress thing. We actually use it now as a staging area for something that is somewhat new in the scheme of things, where we do that. All the instruments come through the shop initially. Now, right before they get shipped out, they come and sit here and we do a final inspection.
Okay. And who does
that
the final
mix
inspection?
too.
Who does
This is right around the corner from the shipping department, and they come in and sit here and we pull them off and do a final inspection. And because we're so good, that hardly takes anything. You know, what would they need now? That is true, where most of the time we are able to say, yep, this is exactly as I thought it was going to be. But many times there are adjustments and different things made.
Sure.
Things are covered at that end.
Okay, so when I was there, I just assumed that was the place for a go bar deck. So when you
Yeah,
are
it would be.
when you're doing that final inspection stuff, and the shipping department comes in and deposits, is it anybody catch the fly ball there, or is it specific people who are doing your final?
The way that came about in that organic way, as I said before, where I said, look, people, these need to be dealt with right away, beginning of the day. This is the first thing you do. I want the people who are here to divvy them up, be fair to each other. You know, don't leave Carlos with all the harps, you know. But you know, with 8 people here, we usually have at least 2 people off every day, for, you know, like 5 days a week. So there's usually 5 to 6 people here, and all 5, you know, and some of those people, we have people working 9 to 5, people working 9 to 7, and people working 11 to 7.
Okay.
So all the 9 o'clock people, you know, if there's 5 people working that day, there might be 3 9 o'clockers, and they come in and split these up between the 3 of them. And then there's an afternoon batch of stuff that needs to be shipped out. Then the people that are working 11 to 7 have to, you know, go through those. But that because of that idea of this is what we have to do. Who's here? Let's divvy it up. Let's go for it. That mentality is really present in the shop all the time, and makes that part of management really easy. I said, this is what you got to do. Dive in, everybody go for it, and be fair. And that's kind of how the front counter and the customer repairs that come in. I said, we had this row of benches here was the counter guys. That row of benches back there was the phone guys. Let's just split it up, you know, 6 people here. And through that, a lot of people managing themselves in a lot of ways. That autonomy happens a lot again, which is one of the things I think that keeps people here for decades. You know, you're a part of a bigger organization, but you have your own thing going on within that.
Well, that's another thing that struck me too, is the longevity of repair guys that work there. You know, in a lot of shops, you see a tremendous amount of turnover that almost seem like there's a revolving door somewhere in the place. You know,
I
people,
think the main thing that holds people there, in addition to just how the Werben family and the business that they run, and how and that atmosphere from that keeps people here. The other thing is pay structure. We have always gotten a really great chunk of that customer repair work that comes in and allows a person to make a living, have a family, buy a house, pay a car off.
all right,
That keeps people here.
since you brought that up, you know, everybody who's listening to us today is not swinging a fret hammer, you know, out of a sense of public duty. We're all doing this for a living. So how let's talk, if you're comfortable talking about that, how does the pay structure work in a multiple Luth environment like that at Elderly?
Without getting into specifics, we all get paid a regular wage to come in, punch the clock, and do all the work that keeps Elderly Instruments going. When you get a customer repair, you get a portion of every hour. You get a percentage. You get 1%. The store gets the rest of it to pay for overhead, and so you get paid in. And so, for the most part, we in the repair shop make our living from those customer repairs, but we have to pay the piper, as it were. We have to keep the store going, because if it weren't for the store, there wouldn't be all these people flocking here for us to fix their guitars.
Right.
So it's a hand in hand thing, and it's challenging. Like it's similar, like it is for a lot of folks all through the repair business. It's a challenge to bill half of your hours.
Right.
You know, if you're working furiously, if you're able to bill half of your hours, and it usually doesn't. It's hard to get that many hours at the bench and turning those. So for every hour you have at the bench, usually they're not all billable either. So that's in a nutshell how it works. But Steve is contemplating other ideas too.
Sure.
Working with management on other possibilities.
Yeah, it's a process.
And so, as you can imagine, that makes all of us in this room customer centric focused, you know, because that's what's buttering our bread, you know. And so there's a lot of push and pull and a lot of challenging situations that develop from that, about you know, all the different levers getting pulled at the same time, all the plates being spun. So that's one of the things that makes it well, we just talked about the longevity of people, and you know, all the things that pull us in. That's one of the things that can make it more challenging.
Sure. So we've seen, I think we've seen four out of the 8 workspaces so far.
Yeah.
What else we got?
Mitchell is actually doing work. He's in the middle of doing work. Look at that. Mitchell Yost. Mitchell is one of our newish guys. How long you been here, Mitchell?
I've been here for about a year and a half.
So definitely a newer guy. And where did you go to school?
I went to school at Gallup.
So you only got
Notice that we have a huge Gallup footprint here. You know, from Steve's working, you know, with Brian under Dan.
Yeah.
And Mitchell went to Gallup, Mike went to Gallup, Carlos went to Gallup, and we'll meet 2 more guys that also went to Gallup as we move through. So I'm the only one. Gallup, you know, except, but of course, as we talked about TJ's footprint on this place, where Dan and Brian, you know, have a huge impact on this business too, in a number of different ways. You know, from Dan and your association with Stu Mack and on through, and then when I need an employee, I call Brian and say, "What do you got for me, Brian?" And numerous times over the years, he's sent me people gift wrap. Here's the guy. You should go, you know, and going, there have been times when going through the interview process was just yeah, we hardly needed to do it. We knew we were no different. So there's that. I just wanted to.
That's great.
But, so Mitchell has the windows bench, as we call it. So right out there was the, you know, the repair shop lobby. Over here, there's a window. We have blocked off over the years with that, right? But he is right here in this space. But you can see he's got a similar thing from Scott and Carlos going on. We bought a number of these benches from Global. Got the same, case table with work in progress underneath it. And this is his rack right here. This is his rack stuff. Customer repairs. Sure.
Oh,
You better put that back. We'll never figure out where they.
how many nights did you wake up in the middle of the night worrying about that happening?
Oh, lots of times. Oh, yeah. How many times, gentlemen, are we in an all-out sort of Keystone Cops thing? I can't find this guitar, dude. You know, and we, you know, that happens every so often. You know, we've only lost a few. We've only lost a few.
I think that happens in any shop, any big size shop. That's got to happen.
All right, and now we're here at another last two work days. Kyle, he's chiseling hand. These guys are working. Kyle's there. Who's on this end? Dan, Ian Davlin, and Doug Proper are the main three. There. Yeah. And so, how long have you been here, Kyle? You're kind of a middle.
5 years.
5 years. And a gal graduate. Yep. This workstation here is the one that sort of squeezed in. These last two, we created 2 workstations out of one space, and they're not as much space here, but again, similar design. The metal, but we bought a lot of this gray carpet at one time.
Yeah.
And this carpet is the same as the stuff that is upstairs. But a similar design. That bench actually, though, has a history. Where does that one from? That's Paul's. That was right. That was Paul's, which was okay. It was Paul's. Yeah, but anyhow, that bench
Originally, you mean upstairs?
Yeah, that one was.
That was Johnny's.
Yeah, that was Johnny's. Yeah,
Against the wall, under the
that was against the wall under the chemicals. Yeah, where we used to store all the lacquer and stuff. Chemicals. But that one's been around a long time. Anyhow, the rack behind and thank God. One more station. Hey, Bryce. Bryce Fight is our newest guy. How long you been here, Bryce?
8.5 weeks, 9 weeks.
Yeah,
Oh,
3 months.
yes.
So he's the
Hey,
newbie.
Bryce.
He is getting. I'm running him through the setup ringer. So everybody who's been here starts with new instrument setup, and at this point, after 37 years, we actually have a bit of a plan where we've sort of known what to do with you, how to move you through it with a timeline. You're one of the, and so, which is something that, of course, the whole business is doing. What do we do and how do we do it, and documenting it and lining all that up with all of our software so that when we get somebody new in, we don't have to reinvent the wheel every time.
Right.
We sort of know we have processes and different things. So, I mean, Bryce started out with steel string acoustic guitar setup for weeks, and we throw in classical guitars. And while we're doing classical guitars, we throw in some ukuleles, electric guitars. And then mandolins fall in there, and then banjos. So, Kyle is Kyle and I do still do it, but Kyle is one of our main banjo guys. He took that mantle on from Scott Stretch Rhinesmith, a a long time key piece of this whole thing. Scott is no longer with us. It's a super. I probably shouldn't even go there because I might get teary thinking about it. But he was with us for 25 years, my age, and suddenly took ill and was gone before we even knew. But his stamp is all over this room too. He was jack of all trades and master of every single one of them. Not master of none, but master of every single one of them too. Anyhow, he ended up being our banjo guy. Taught Kyle and I a lot of everything we know about banjos. And Bryce actually started to, after 3 months, you're starting to branch out into some used instruments and a little more involved.
I forgot about it.
Oh, okay.
Scott,
I didn't forget about it, but I forgot to tell you about it.
Okay, so same time.
6 o'clock.
You know what?
What?
I was thinking about fried chicken. I guess I could go get it now.
Yes.
All right.
is that coming from you? Or is that
I'm
coming-
trying, I think that's, I got it.
Okay.
I will say fried chicken does sound delicious, though.
Let me just show you some of the other parts of the shop.
Yeah, let's do that.
Got a dust collector running a small array of standard machines in here.
All right, so we got a tool room.
Standard, ancient craftsman bandsaw, which has been here for all 37 of my years. I would say this thing's easily 50 years old. But we got the sumac buffer, Delta staple sander, oscillating spindle sander, standard set stuff. Okay. So this building, before it was an advertising agency, was a post office. And so reinforced concrete walls. And this is a two-way mirror. We currently house our dust collector in there. But you can't really tell, but there are cork floors in this room. And it's a little hallway here, and right back there is a door that opened out into the alley so that the postal inspectors, the bosses, the supervisors could walk outside, enter that door from the outside, and unbeknownst to anybody, come in here and observe the workers through the one-way mirror glass. And there was one over here at the end of this little thing here too.
The observation port.
There was a little step up there, and there was one-way glass in there too. So the postal workers were not paranoid. They weren't being watched. They weren't being watched, which is why they went. And so we decided to use that as to just put our machine room. So there's the machine.
So this is a community room. Everybody can use it as they need.
Yep. Which could bring up, I mean, that's definitely one of the challenges of a shop of this size is all the community tools and maintaining them and who uses them in what way. And yeah, that's all. We should see the spray booth.
And the coffee pot.
Coffee pot's going. I'm gonna have to grab some of that. The flam cab and the spray booth, which it's not much, but there's in this closet here. It's a mess and paint spray. Anyhow, we do have a spray booth, and we are very, very proud of it. We graduated from rattle cans out the back door type of thing. You know, I didn't, from that and not really doing any touch-up work. At one point in time, TJ lived about 2 blocks away, and he built a shop in his garage. And so at one point we would throw the guitars in your car and drive over to TJ's and do some spraying over there. And all that spray would go out, you know, as long as his neighbors weren't home. And their cars weren't parked out where the fan was.
Right.
Things like that. But, and, okay, no, yeah. We need to see, you need to see my stuff.
Yeah, we need space.
All right. My little cubby hole.
Show us some basket cases.
Okay. We got those. So this room was part of the advertising agency, and they had these used to be light up backlit tables for
Now you guys have been busy because when I was there, you couldn't walk through this room.
yeah, it was still part of what's happened since you were here, Doug, is that we for the first time, maybe the second time since I've been here, we are currently not purchasing any instruments. We are still allowing people to bring stuff in to consign, and that's why this floor space is empty. So in the 6-8 weeks since y'all been here, we have purchased very few instruments because we had a huge glut of used inventory that needed to be processed, and we're still working with that. We've also, that's one of the main projects that Steve is doing. That's one of the things he jumped on. We needed to we usurped a huge room over yonder here, and to re-racked it, and we're taking all of the used inventory and putting it in there and really doing a super deep organization and inventory of it to make sure we know what we have. And Steve's got a number of cool ideas that are being floated about how we might move that stuff through channels other than the traditional way we do it, Elderly Instruments. But despite the floor being empty, this is still all used instruments that we have to fix. We have to fix all this.
Now this is all store-owned stuff, or is this consigned?
Yeah, this is store-owned stuff, and this is about a quarter of it.
Okay.
This is store-owned stuff here, and we have about good four or five times that much. But these little set of rooms here are just part storage. We got this room all drawered up with all kinds of used parts and fret wire and everything in there. And this room here used to be a dark room. There used to be sinks in here and stuff. But this is my space. And so I moved back here not too long ago. I've only been in here a couple of years tops. What do you think? Something like that. And partly it was we had to need space. We hired another guy, like Mitchell needed a bench. And so probably a year and a half, 2 years ago, as long as Mitchell's been here. So this is my, and also too, but yeah, that's when I said, I'm thinking about retiring at the end of 23, beginning of 24. That was a year and a half ago. Mitchell got hired, and the idea of transitioning started to happen. So we needed the space, and I said, hey, it would kind of be good if I were a little off the beaten path back here, so that for all the obvious reasons of a transition. So
yeah, so you can get your work done when you're there.
Yeah. And so I don't know about basket cases, but I have been. I did grab a couple of things here. Come back here, and I could show you some guitars, some cool guitars that I've got. These two, I have late. I usually do, a fair amount of Martin vintage stuff, and other things, banjos and mandolins, but I don't know about you guys, but here, when we get something, everybody says, "Wow, that is cool." Within the next month, having not seen something like this for a while, we have 3 of them find their way to us and things like that. So I've had this nice little run of mid-30s Martins. I have a 36 0018 here, and 35 shade top 0028, which, as you can see, one of the things that I need to do is to replace the bridge with a more standard size bridge. So it's going to have a bunch of finish touch up there, which of course I'm going to approach using the Doug Proper method, if I can call it that. But I've definitely been, see right there, Doug.
Okay.
I got this is my French polishing box, which has expanded. I got my little that's my pumice,
Right.
and it's my rotten stone. Anyhow, and I bought so I definitely learned some things at Northwoods for sure, and I love the French polishing thing. And I've approached a couple of touch ups from that idea of sort of starting, and something I know that Mike also, when he went down to Dan's shop and took the Ian workshop, you know, that idea was in circulation here of sort of the blank slate touch-up thing.
Yeah.
You know, where you have a touch-up area and instead of trying to mix up the ideal color to spray on there, or how do I get, you know, the myriad of challenges that you have with touch-up work, right? How you get it to blend, where the idea of sort of, I kind of think of it as a little bit of a blank slate where you start with a neutral light color on the base, and you're building layers up to get to the thing, and you're drawing in fake grain lines and adding stuff as you go and building up those layers, and then
you're sneaking up on a result. Yeah,
you're sneaking up on it. French polishing. I was hoping it was still here. I went to find it this morning. I had another 36 00018 where I had the bridge was a little large, and I put the TJ bridge on it, and I had, you know, just right here where the previous bridge, which was ugly and wrong, you know, I had to touch. I did it with all shellac and French polishing and sort of, and the nice thing about it is that I had control of the patina the whole time.
Yeah,
like it never got too shiny, you know, it never got too new. I was like, anyhow, I love that part.
Awesome.
So that's what I'm thinking of approaching this, because the bridge is going to be anyhow. So yeah, it's a big bridge. So but again, same sort of thing. So this bench has been this was the bench that was the head repair guy's bench. This was Bart Ryder's bench when I interviewed. So I interviewed with Bart when he was the head repair person here in 1985 and considered coming to work here from Western Pennsylvania, where I was. And my girlfriend at the time, who made the trip with me, said, "That's an insult. What they're asking, what they're, you know, they proposed $4.50 an hour." And I was going to jump on it, but she said, "No, you're not. You know, that's insult." And we broke up 3 months later, so I kind of lost out on that one. But that was Bart's bench when it started. And when I got there, you know, so 3 years later, I said, I had gone to one of the conventions, and TJ had a guitar there, and I was saying, "Who is this TJ guy?" And went up, met him, and I said, "Oh, you're working at Elderly." And I said, you know, I was more ready to move then, personally. So they offered me $5 an hour, and I took it that time. But this was TJ's bench when I got there, and then I got it, and I've added a few, had to layer it up. But yeah, all the furniture in here was from the original shop at different things. You remember this one was right out of the window, and this is where Stan stood and did the priced instruments and worked on violins. And that one, this one over here was where the counter. This was the counter, yeah, where the gate swung on. So anyhow, I kept all this furniture because I kind of
That's the shim I made so that the thing would be off balance, so it would return with the spring and that.
But we have you know, compressed air at every workstation and a kind of a, you know, a thing. And since I'm a little more isolated back here, I have a few more tools and stuff that I steal away from myself.
What's going to happen come January? You're moving into your shop at home full time?
Yeah, I'm going to retire from here. And a matter of fact, my hope is to do absolutely nothing to do with fixing guitars and building guitars for a month or two.
Okay.
Just like not do anything with that for a while and sort of see what that feels like and see. And then I got a couple irons in the fire about how I'm going to come back into it, what Konkoly guitars is going to be. I hope to do some repairs. I hope to do some building, but, you know, part-time. And for sure, I'm going to come back in here, and I told Steve, I'm going to be that ex-employee that shows up. And I'm going, "Oh God, him again." What, you know, I'm going to come back here and bug these guys, because I've said this one before, 37 years. If I don't think too hard about it, my car comes to the Elderly Instruments in that back parking lot at times during the day, and I have to really concentrate, or it just goes there. And so I'm sure that'll happen.
When you
But-
when you do get beyond that point where we've taken a couple of, you know, self-healing months to clear your head, and you're figuring out what Konkoly Instruments is looking like, you got to come back and we can catch up with that.
That would be great. I would love to do the same thing there. It won't take nearly as long because there'll only be me and two or three small rooms, no spray booth or whatever. But that's what I have to do. Mostly what I'm doing during those months off is clean the place because I haven't really done a lot of work there for 5 years or more, you know, and so there's just household stuff all through all the guitar stuff. And
Sure.
gotta get rid of all that stuff.
I have a quick question for Steve.
Okay.
Steve, in February, what's this real estate looking like where you're standing now?
That's a good question. I'm not really sure how it's going to shake out. I don't know that I'm going to be coming back here particularly.
Right.
We're going to try to repurpose some of the rooms and shift the inventory so we can streamline it and keep it a little more organized with the flow. We've got a new situation where we just hired a fellow to work at the counters, doing intake and roving
Appraisal repair liaison is his
Right.
official title.
Yeah,
So you're creating a new position for somebody to do intake for the repairs, as opposed to guys having to walk away from their bench for.
correct.
Yeah, for
the-
both the repair and appraisal, so that he
Yeah.
will be dealing with the people that say, I think I want to consign this, or they say, oh, I want to see if I can get this fixed. And, you know, sort of a first, what's the guy called at the auto dealer there? The,
Concierge.
no, yeah, maybe. Anyhow, that kind of a guy like that who, and
That's a-
it's been really we've had this idea for decades at
Yeah.
different times. And we have
Finding the
been
right person with the right skill set.
somebody that is familiar enough with both repair and appraisal and yet isn't necessarily going to be a repair person,
Right.
but has some repair experience. It's been a challenge, but right at the right time, we stumbled upon the right guy.
So let me ask you a question about that, because we were talking last week during the Dan and Doug show about intake. Some folks do, like myself, I'll do the full examination when somebody comes in with the guitar, and before they leave it, they know what they're looking at in terms of a repair bill. Others take an instrument in, do the full workup, and then get back to the customer either by phone or email. How do you guys do it there? Do you guys do the evaluation at the counter? And
We do it both ways, but mostly the first way you're talking about, everything done so that when they leave after that first, they walk up to the counter and say, I want you to fix this. Before they leave with a full estimate, knowing all the options. They have a guy, a person. They have a person, and they have a repair estimate and a due date, which is how we like to do it. For many times for appraisal, if what they say is, I'm considering selling this through, that's when we have them drop it off most of the time, but not all the time. We never used to. We used to do everything in person, in face, and you came in and did a one-stop shop and left, so that we would do the whole 9 yards. But it's
evolved. I mean, now we have people that contact us by email, so they correspond with the appraisal department, set it up first, set up a time to bring it in, then, they bring it in, and sometimes we have the paperwork prepared ahead of time, or at least some of the information processed.
What percentage would you say of instruments being brought in for appraisal and consignment are coming in physically with the owner, and how many are coming in that are getting shipped to you? Do you have an idea what that mix is?
80-20 maybe?
Yeah.
80% what?
Mostly it's the person.
Yeah, mostly it's
the majority is definitely the person. 80-20 could be 60-40, but that larger number is the person in person.
right.
Oh, okay.
So we get that contact. A lot of people drive here. They don't. The more For a lot of people, it's an opportunity. As you said, Doug, we're in, you were in the area, you knew of Elderly, you wanted to come see the place. We get a lot of people say, let's make a trip, a road trip out of it. We have Grandpa's guitar. We definitely want to see what they have to say about it. And let's go in person because it would be cool to see the place and play a bunch of guitars. So we see a lot of people like that. And then we have people who make their initial 3 visits like that. And then from then on, they're shipping us stuff because they know the lay of the land and we go through that. So it's more, and we also, and certainly there are people that come in that drop it off that don't wait for the whole thing. We have, as I mentioned, each repair person has regular customers who, a guy who plays music, a person who plays music professionally, has a stable of instruments that need to be worked on and rotated through, and they come in and they have their guy and they just drop them off and walk away. Sure. I like, the people that say, I like what you do what I want, or I find out that is a lot of times that relationship develops to the point where you teach them what you do and say, this is what you should like. And this is what's possible, what's possible and likely. And you develop a relationship then, and that person might just say, hey, I'm dropping 3 things off on Saturday and you call me on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Like that. But it's still mostly the in-person thing.
Yeah, and that's going to be the hardest thing trying to transition is to trust him and his instinct and who to, knowing everybody's strengths in the repair department, who to channel things to, who to, so we're just going to have to work on getting comfortable with each other and trusting him. And if we still have to go out and make contact personally with the customer, that's fine. He'll still do the intake and we'll get more consistency with
So a lot of times to develop that, he's going to greet the customer, start the form, and from that, come back and sees who's available, and then the repair person is going to come out and greet that person and do the whole thing. But
it can be done after the fact too. So
yes, and so we're going to encourage more people to say, look, here's mostly what's going on. We think we get, so the liaison, I think, will get familiar with everyone in the shop and what their strengths are and who does what and who's available. Then to be able to do some evaluation of the instrument, basic evaluation of the instrument, especially when, taking in the information. This is the customer's idea of what they want. Talk to them a little bit about that. And then, but still, yeah, just sort of initial going through of basics, but then still the repair guy's going to hook up with them fairly early in the process. Yeah.
Hey, I was, do you think, what are our chances of getting a peek at, like the appraisal area and maybe?
Oh yeah. Let's do that.
Is there Wi-Fi good enough to see the ballroom?
Probably, huh? Probably.
So
Yeah.
What did we just walk through? What are we walking through now? Where are we?
Okay, so right out here is the repair lobby where we started. Right over here is the main shop where all the guys work.
Yeah.
My spot back here. Now, this hallway is the main traffic area we need to get to that side of the building. I know there's all kinds of stuff over here. But here, this is sort of parallel with the main shop. We're going into the appraisal area. This is new instrument setups. So when Bryce says, I just finished that and I inspect it, and say, I don't have to inspect everything he does right now because he's moving along well. He comes right to this rack because this is the high priority setup rack.
So this is all the stuff, the new instruments that are coming in from manufacturers that need to get out on the showroom floor.
Yeah, and the sales team has designated this small group of stuff. This is stuff we need first to get out on the sales floor. We have room for it. We don't have, we have room for these, and then this is the next stuff you go to. So the shipping in the receiving area, which is over yonder in the basement of the showroom, ballroom on the next floor, that they bring all that stuff over here and run it through. This stuff is all ready for sale, or about to be ready for sale. This is all the stuff that we've fixed, and all the stuff that we're selling as is. It is right outside.
So this is
the
all.
photo area.
This is
So in
all
this room,
consignment instruments here that you've.
consignment instruments and used instruments we fixed, and instruments that we are purchased that we're going to sell them as is without repair room. This is the and it's just right outside this room, which is we should go in here. What the heck? We're not going to interrupt one. So this is the photo area.
Okay.
So right back here, this is our 360 photo area. If you've seen used instruments on our website, this rotates. Guitar stand goes on there. This camera is set up right here, stationary. Snap, 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 as it rotates around. That's how we do the 360 thing.
Okay.
And we send it out to the company that sold us the 360 thing, and they meld it together. But anyhow, all the used instruments get photoed in here, and all the new instruments, not every single one, but every model, everything in there. And that's right outside appraisal there. Hi, Larry.
Hi.
Hi, Larry.
Candid camera. Hello.
Yeah. This is Larry White. Larry Scott White. He is one of our main appraisers. We have three guys who, four guys here in the appraisal thing. But Larry tells us how much that's worth.
A lovely L48 here from 1948.
Larry, as you see behind him, you see a repair setup bench because Larry has done double duty. He has been in the appraisal. He's probably in the sales too. Probably started out in sales.
Time ago in sales.
Yeah, but he was in the repair department as one of our setup guys I mentioned, and now and he's back in appraisal here. So his repair setup experience feeds right into the appraisal thing. He knows what we're talking about, and still does some setup work when necessary.
Sure. Let me ask you a question, Larry. Well, we got you. So instruments are coming in. Obviously, you never know what you're going to get until the box is open half the time. How much of your appraisal of what something's worth is based on your appreciation of the conditions of the market versus condition of the instrument? And of course, knowing that you have the ability to send an instrument into the repair department for repairs to make it, bring it up to condition for sale. How do you deal with that juggling act? How much research are you doing versus how much market research as for example, the different.
Oh, well, a ton. We check the market.
You hit the nail on the head there, as far as what this job entails.
We look at the condition. Obviously, usually before we see it, the repair shop does an estimate on it. Then we compare it to comparable ones out there in the market and what we've had in our database that we've sold.
Trying to take into account
all factors.
Trends.
Yeah,
that's the job right there, man. It's not easy to figure.
We got to get it right, because if we don't, then it's more work down the road if we miss something.
Yeah.
But plus, you have the customer's expectation of what they're hoping to get for something. Plus, you also have to manage the customer in terms of saying, okay, well, I know you want that for this instrument, but if we're going to get there, this, and this, whatever laundry list you come up with in your appraisal of repairs, need to be done in order to do that. Let's say whether it's a neck reset on an old Martin that's action is too high, or whether it's your binding is starting to crumble on your old Gretsch, or whatever it might be. Then how much repair department are you pulling into that conversation?
Just pretty much with every customer. We give them an estimate, and we explain it to them. This is what needs to be done to get top dollar. Usually if they want to consign it, we require the work. Or sometimes they just want to get it fixed, or if they want it written, usually if it's something major, we have to include that in the written. Yeah, it needs this. We try to, it's kind of a one-on-one thing. Not everybody has the same idea what they want to do with their instrument. As far as the, the value, whether or not they want to put money into it to get more money. So sometimes we buy them as is. Current buying hold right now, but
Yeah,
there's all different scenarios of customer expectations, what they want to do, what we can do for them. Sometimes there's a state item and they just get written because they got to check with other family members. There's a lot of different scenarios.
there is. And that's the challenge of this job right here, is juggling all those competing things, and to come up with a quote definitive number, which is a challenge. It's an everyday challenge. And that's one of the things that happens is, like, many times it's Larry and Steve and I and everybody in this room and 3 people from that room, 5 or 6 people getting together and trying to figure out what's going on with this instrument and have a general discussion and move in one way or another as far as but for sure these guys have been at it for a long time.
Well, you got 4. You said you had 4 full-time.
Yeah. Larry. Drew is off today. There's his space. And here's Frog. I don't know if you guys have ever done business with Elroy. You know this guy because he was here when I got here. So I've been here 37 years, Frog. You know what your number is? 40.
It'll be 38 in March.
38. So you were, oh man, only a year here. See, I kind of think of you as being here a long time but really what it was is you were in the Lansing area playing music with your band for a long time, as opposed to, so you started working here not just a little before I did. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so that level of experience but the main starting place is the Elderly Instruments database, which is 51 years old and going on. We have a ton of information on what we've sold things for in the past and how that relates to the current market, And there's Brian. Brian's also one of our appraisers working in here. He's like our appraisal coordinator. He's the guy that pulls together all those disparate things that you were talking about, and Larry was talking about all the different scenarios that a customer can have about what they're trying to do. And
on an average, say, given week, month, or year, how, to put it in perspective for people, how many instruments would be coming through your appraisal department?
Weekly. You gotta throw that one out.
Either on a weekly basis or a monthly.
On a daily basis, it's anywhere from 10 to 50.
No, it's about 50 a week.
About 50 a week.
But sometimes a lot more than that.
Sometimes a lot more. It ebbs and flows. But on the average, I'd say he's right. About 50 instruments a week coming through here.
Wow.
So we have to.
They come in clumps.
They come in clumps sometimes. Definitely these days we get a lot of collections. From anywhere from 3 instruments to 100 instruments. Then when it's 100 instruments, they only come in 10 at a time. You say, whoa. We can't do all 100 of these at once. You can bring in 10 at a time over the next 6 months. Things like, so we get the family or the widow. We get a lot of wives bringing their husband's instrument collections in after they passed.
Right.
And we see a bunch of those. So this room used to be.
Joe, really quick, is anybody worried if like that all happened at once? Like,
oh yes.
yeah.
We worry about that on a daily basis. Yes.
Okay.
And one of our biggest challenges for both of these departments is to learn how to say no.
Yeah.
And what that means, and say, we cannot do that, and we're in, and Steve was talking about transitioning one of the things that what we used to do in appraisal is, when it was just Stan, you brought it in and he told you a number and wrote you a check. All in this, all within a short, all through in the same day. And we used to, up until just a few years ago, every single person that walked in here with an instrument expected to get their appraisal numbers while they waited.
Wow.
And so that, when those numbers balloon up from, 15 a week to 50 a week or more, then
about an average of 50 a week, you're talking about quite a few thousand guitars a year, for instance.
Yes, sure. Mm-hmm. Yep. And we don't end up doing business on all of those, but you're right. All of those require dissipation from repair and appraisal and a number. At one point, we were the only game in town. You couldn't really sell your instrument any other way. You could, but that was very limited. And with eBay and now the exponential opportunities there are to sell your instruments on your own, we have had a never-ending battle of giving away free information on how and how to, and it's what's that?
Why we charge for appraisals.
Which is why we charge for appraisals. Yes, we used to do for free. We used to take a pre-CBS Strat and have 6 people spend 3 hours each on it, all trying to get this done in a day. Steve would take it apart, screw by screw, scrutiny from the customer, put it all back. Everybody would gather around and look at the things we documented, put it all back together, come up with a number and take it out. And the guy said, no, thanks. I don't think I want to do business, and walk.
And then listed on eBay.
Yeah.
So what does an appraisal typically cost?
Now, if you're doing business with us, we still do it for nothing.
Oh, so if you leave the instrument for consignment,
so if you want, and so we charge for written appraisals, $50 for a written appraisal on anything. But we also have $100 appraisals and $150 appraisals and $250 appraisals. And on those from 100 to 250, we say that we're the ones that determine. The only way that we are going to consider doing business on this with you is, well, we're going to charge you up front, and we tell them 100, those levels, because we know how much time and energy it takes for us. Mm-hmm. And when they walk, that's what you get if you bring a pre-CBS Strat in, we charge $250, and you walk out with a written appraisal on that. And if you do business later with us, we will refund some of that, Okay. But we followed the Groom Guitars and Carter's and the other people who started to do that, charging, $100 and more for written appraisals on those things, because we found, we'd while we're doing our own research, looking on Reverb 2 weeks later, said, hey, that guy was just in here. That's my appraisal. He's selling that he's saying everything that I told him that day, Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's still an ongoing challenge for us, as you can tell just from the tone of my voice. You can tell from the tone of my voice and that it's an ongoing challenge to not give it away for free and respect the expertise of this room as much as it needs to be. But unfortunately, there's a certain amount of it that there's a certain amount of it that does walk out the door with no compensation. But if a person, and we get really, we're way better at reading people, or just looking at their track record. This is the 3rd time you've been in here in the past 3 months, and each time you walked, even though you said you wanted to sell it to us, and now we're looking at the 12th instrument that you've got a free appraisal for. Right. We say, look, we can't do any more free appraisals for you.
It's kind of like the Antiques Roadshow, where Stan would have an actual altar from the ballroom. Right. You put the instrument up, he'd evaluate it. Then at the end of the thing, if you like the number, you get a check, whatever, but it's like, that's one guy. And it snowballed beyond the point where he could do them all. And,
Sure.
some people still expect that kind of experience. It's
Yeah.
like
A lot of our old time customers really miss standing in the throne. We can show you the throne when we go up to the ball.
Sure.
The main building that the showroom is in was a Oddfellows Lodge. And
Okay.
so there is some memorabilia stuff left over from their secret ceremonies. The throne was one of them.
Okay.
Hey,
All right, so
let's keep walking. Okay, so now we're walking back out of the appraisal area. This is the vault.
oh boy,
It's not really a vault, but it does lock. The door
it's
does
a
lock.
lock on it.
And this is the high end stuff. You know, this is the 5-6 figure stuff. All of it in here is all this is. And so it's not a ton of stuff, but it's this room, if this room went up in flames, that would be a problem.
That would be pretty sad.
Because that's all the good stuff in there. So here we are back into repair. Be old up, Eric. Eric's doing good. Give me the thumbs up. His wrist is killing him. So this was the repair lobby where we started.
How many people actually come to use that tube tester you got out there?
Very few.
Okay.
Steve, that's actually Steve's. That's one
Okay.
of 2 tube testers that Steve owns. And he generously donated it for a piece of furniture. The main showroom.
Mm-hmm.
And the main front door.
Okay.
And the main sales guys. Wait, what's now this? Is
We got a couple of bathrooms there.
yeah, there's a bathroom, but we're going upstairs here.
Okay.
So this the stairwell, this is how you came up to the ballroom for the at the Oddfellows Lodge. So this, the stairs and the bathrooms. I've been here a long time.
I was blown away by the sheer size of the place. Too.
And so this is the ballroom. As you can see, it has the stamped metal ceilings.
Mm-hmm.
The stamped metal ceilings. We did have a real ceiling problem at one point, but a lot of instrument storage up. These are all new instruments.
Okay.
They're binned and tagged and barcoded.
How are you guys doing humidity in there? Is there a secret HVAC somewhere I don't see?
I'm not sure we want to talk about that here.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, I'm positive. We totally luck out, and Mother Nature provides most of what we get.
Okay.
And I've for decades have said, this is not doable, man. This is not doable. We can't put that instrument up here. I'm not going to fix it. If that falls apart, when that comes back to me in splinters, I'm not fixing it. But the bottom line is that, and that Stan would say, well, okay, here's the cost that it's going to take to,
I think I see
the button this up top to bottom and provide humidity. And he would say, how many instruments from that ballroom have died? And I would say, well, and I couldn't, none.
Is that a novel?
None in 37 years is the answer. And so the cost, and so, yes, there's been dozens every year that have problems, but I used to, this is what I used to stay up at night worrying about. When there were instruments in our showroom that were having humidity problems, I was, I didn't even want to think about the ballroom. But oddly enough, there has been zero disasters from this room, despite the fact that it gets very cold in the winter, not as dry because it's cold, and it gets very warm in the summer. But anyhow,
you can do a 360 with that camera so people can appreciate how many instruments are really in there.
And
Wow.
and go through it.
Yeah.
And at this point, you can see there's actual space on many of the racks. They're not totally full. This used to be full. top to bottom at times. But our inventory is our new inventory is totally under control.
So everything up here is new instruments?
Nope. All the stuff on this side right here, this section over here is used.
Okay.
All the stuff over there is new. And many of these are just cases. Many of these are just cases. That's actually the main way we keep things safe is most of what this is on the new instrument side is case storage.
Okay.
It's also the same here with the used inventory. Most of this stuff is in the showroom. And there are, the cases that belong to those instruments. But there are always instruments up here. And back in the day when the showroom was chock full and you couldn't, swing a cat without breaking 3 vintage Martins, that's when I was really worried about this room. But we survived that. And so again, and there's, so that's the ballroom there. You can see there are fixtures from the old days. I really don't even know what this thing is, but some cool horn thing, and the doors and the fixtures and the hardwood floors and
just keep.
So we got there's all kinds of little ante rooms, but I promised you the throne. So there's the main door. We came up the steps. Here's the throne right here.
There it is.
So this used to sit in the middle of the sales floor, and people would line up, and you would walk up with your case on there. Stan would open the case, look at it, give you $50, $500, whatever. And it's definitely got some sort of Oddfellows thing in there, and it was. And this is where in the day for the Oddfellows, they would have this was leather covered, and there would be important ceremonial garb and secret handshake information and everything in there. But that's all it used to be. But so got the hardwood floors. You hear them creaking. Anyhow, that's the ballroom.
Yeah.
This is the top floor. Shoot, we're gonna go back home through the basement. Why not? And then you got the main floor right there. That would be the showroom and all. When the building was first moved into, the hope was to do concerts in the ballroom, but elevator and the cost of the elevator never balanced out with the probable income from shows and everything. So that would have been great.
Dan earlier on just complimented the cameraman.
Yeah. So this is the basement. Very sleek structure. Again,
You got storage everywhere. What's in back in that room to the left?
it's just this is one of the areas that used to drive me crazy because it could really dry out in here, and we had stuff in here and that. But we've finally. These are all cases. There are no instruments in this room.
It's okay. This is just case storage and.
Yep, case storage, and that's pretty much what's down here.
Amplifier backstock.
Amplifier backstock, case storage,
More cases.
more cases.
New cases.
Yeah, new instrument cases, and over here.
The bones of Oddfellows.
Yep. This is so this is the basement of the Oddfellows building, and here we got books, CDs.
They still make books?
They still do. It's not when was this book made? Probably a long time ago. This is probably but no. Yeah, they still make books, and we sell a few of them. Yeah. And this is the receiving area. So truck pulls up the street and everything comes through that door in here, hence the boxes, all the stuff. We receive it here, and it goes out on its merry way through the rest of the building. Various other areas like that here downstairs. But downstairs here, let's go through here.
So when an instrument, somebody ships you an instrument for either for repair or appraisal, that's where it comes in.
Comes in that door, gets unboxed here.
I actually have a few of them here that's eventually coming your way.
Oh, good. This room right here used to house, when I first started working here, this was the catalog department, we called it, which was the mail order department. There was no website yet or anything, but this is where we, half dozen people sat and answered phones and,
Is that
bought stuff.
a white upright base in the corner, or is that like a paper mache base?
That's a real base. This was a big part of our 50th week. So we're in our 51st year now.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, this was an item, it's an old beat up upright base that we just spray painted white. You can actually still see the silhouette on the parking lot on back where we park off that day. And everybody that came to the 50th was encouraged to sign it.
Oh, wow.
That's a nice little piece of memorabilia. That was a hell of a party. That was a hell of a party. We blocked off the streets, had bands all day, big stage. All of the bands had some connection to the store, meaning all of the bands had somebody who worked at the store, either in the band or close to the band. Pretty sure it was, so it was all of us, all the employees, their cameraman included, who got their band together and we played out there and all day party on the whole street. And we had a zillion people. Here we are back on the main floor in the main show.
Yep.
I'm in the hallway in the main show. All right, one more little job there.
Yeah, I think you said there was a molar that.
This is where the repair shop used to be.
Oh, really?
That one bench that I have in my area sat right here, and the swinging gate was right here. And we had a racket here with instruments waiting to be picked up, and then this was the shop right in here.
Oh,
TJ bench was there. Stan's bench was there. I think I started off on a bench in that corner. My friend John was there. John Kane, John Josvik was there. Steve came in, we moved around. But we had, 4 or 5 people in here, and we had a bandsaw, a drill press, and a table sander all clustered together right over here. And at first it was just a Sears shop vac. And then we moved the Sears shop vac. I think we moved it downstairs and ran some pipes up so that we didn't have to hear the shop vac. We were in here a long time, till 1993 or so. The best part about this room is windows. We had really great natural light in here. Yeah, this was the large. So I've definitely spent the majority of my time here in this other space.
We don't have very many.
That's it.
So your mom.
I think I'm done.
Going down to your show and your dad came.
I know. I think that joke that I said, well, I work till 5:30. I think we're coming up on that.
I think we are.
We're very close. We're very close, Joe. You've been amazing.
You've been an amazing host, Joe. So does anybody, before we break, does anybody have any questions for the
This is kind of full circle stuff for me.
Yeah, right back to where you started.
It was a great time to do this, because so now I without even thinking about it, coming back to my cubby hole here.
So does anybody have any questions for Joe before we clock out for the day?
Joe, what's the lighting seems to be very bright and very uniform in there. Do you have criteria for light in the shop?
Not as stringent criteria as you would think, because as you know, in the main shop, no natural light, no windows in that room. That was the post office bunker, and so we did definitely. We designed that room out there with workstations along the walls and the racks in the center for case storage and work in progress, sort of a center island. And then we, let's take a look at that. The banks of lights. Yeah. So certainly where the lighting was placed and how was part of that original design. These banks of lights. And so, for instance, you can see, like, let's see what I did. That small one over Carla. That was where that workstation found. And there was no workstation here. There was only the workstations were there. Yeah, because the original workstations were 1, 2, 3 on these sites. That's where the bank.
Okay.
So definitely the placing of the lighting was designed around the original workstations, but and we have gone through all kinds of different iterations with types of bulbs, natural light, the different types of bulbs, and all the fixtures had to be redone to the different bulbs. So usually what we have is variety. Small variety, trying to be as natural as possible, but definitely it is kind of bright. It's kind of bright, but it's pretty easy for it to get dark and difficult to see. So I still to this day will any spraying or touch up work, and one of the parts of that is to walk out the back door in the sunlight and look at it, and walk upstairs in the showroom and look at it. And look at it at your bench, and as many different lighting situations as you can see. I found that over the years, the natural lighting, natural sunlight, and what that reveals was actually not the situation that most of our customers were viewing their instruments in.
Mm-hmm.
So that is it still has to be a part of the equation, but. Because I wondered how we got away with it. How are we getting away with it? How are people loving our touch-ups and color matchups when we don't have a lot of natural lighting in this shop as opposed to the other one? And that was my conclusion, that it wasn't the situation most of the customers were viewing their instruments in. But does that answer that question?
Yes, it does.
All right. What else you got? That was easy.
Dan, early one, you have anything you want to say or ask?
I wish I would have worked there with you guys for 37 years.
Dan, it warms my heart to hear that, because we've said the same thing here. Your ties to Mid-Michigan and the ongoing the business that you started, that Brian has taken and ran with, and then your tenure at Stu Mac, that is all tied together in such an amazing way for me personally, in so many different ways. I interviewed at Stuart McDonald and before I took the elderly job.
I never knew that.
Yeah, I was interviewing for a sales job, and I wasn't a natural salesperson. I was a repair guy, who wanted to stick his nose in guitars and be in the back all quiet by himself. So I didn't get a job, but I did interview there, and I love Athens. I really wanted to move there. Actually, that's so we would have hooked up in a different way then.
Come down and visit.
Yeah, I will. So what am I going to do when I retire? One thing I'm going to do is drive down to Athens, Ohio, for sure. That's one thing. Because I got all my family's from Pennsylvania, a little bit in Western PA, which is where our roots are, but most of them live out on the eastern side. And so I'm driving by. I'm driving by so many times a year, it ain't funny. And it's ridiculous.
I was born in Pennsylvania too.
Where are you?
Lancaster.
Lancaster. Oh yeah. See, and that's over where most of my family lives, on the east side of the state. I guess that's east central, but anyhow.
Come on down. I got a nice place for you to stay.
Great. Oh, that would be great. We
Bring
will do. I've been so jealous of Steve when he's made his visits, and Evan. I know you always go down and see Eric, and yeah, love to go see Don's place too.
You would love it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Don's got a cool shop. You could also come out
So-
to the New York area.
One of the things
too.
One of the things that I'm thinking about right now is going to the NAMM shows every year, and I would hang out with you guys the whole weekend. Yeah, that's that's how we got to know you and Jay and Todd. I haven't seen Todd Sams in a million years, and Don and everybody that would come to the shows. I just hang out with you guys.
Dave Stouty, you have a question?
Yeah, did you guys bring it up or did I miss it? But didn't you win a pretty nice national award recently?
We did. I'm glad, and thank you for bringing that up. We won the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Best Small Business of the Year award.
I saw that.
That's
Amazing.
pretty incredible.
It is pretty incredible. Much to the credit of our fearless leader, Lillian Werbin, who's Stan Werbin's daughter, and has taken over running the company. And she and Don Glossip, my supervisor, who discovered the award and wrote the grant, and entered the contest, and then Stan and Lily got to go down to DC, and it was like I've seen the footage. It was like being at the Oscars or something, gowns and tuxedos, and and the winner is, pretty amazing stuff. Yes. And we're still kind of basking in the glow of that, and just starting to realize what the big check is going to. Then they got awarded a check that was the size of this rack, and we're going to have that actual piece of material and mount that somewhere. The big check.
Well, you guys just exude, your humbleness and humility, but that's something you should really toot your own horn about, in my opinion. We have already, and so when we hit our 50th year, we had a one-day major celebration here that I mentioned, but we were 50 years old for 365 days, and we did use that for 365 days and beyond. And believe me, everyone that comes within earshot is going to know about that for the next year and beyond. We're barely, Lily and Stan are barely back from Washington, D.C., and we barely got the first round of social media splash about that idea out. So we are going to be tooting that horn for a long time.
Well,
It's a huge deal. Yeah.
well, deservedly too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, Joe, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to do this. This was a real treat.
Cool, man. Yeah, I'm just starting to learn what the Luth Group is and what it does. I just joined just recently, and because I'm going to be away from this community right here soon, and I'm so used to having a bunch of repair guys around to talk to. You'll see me on the Luth Group more.
Well,
And,
also when you do visit your Eastern PA folks,
yeah,
a little bit farther one of those trips and visit us all here in New York City. We'd love to have you.
Yeah, swing up. If it's an issue of transportation, I can make transportation pretty easy.
So Ian, you are in New York?
I'm
also?
in New Jersey, just right next to New York City. But like when people come in, like if you got family doing other stuff and you want to train up for a day, I'll grab you and take you up to Doug's, and
that would be great, because that will definitely happen. So my sister, who lives in New Jersey, fairly near Philadelphia, and my other sister who lives in Philadelphia, that's sort of the center of the family. My parents are gone, and that's sort of the center of family stuff. And I've been to New Jersey 3 times in the past year.
to their house and up to the Poconos. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm going to take you up
Philly's-
on that one. Then.
Yep,
I'm gonna
Philly's
take you up
two-
on that.
We'd
Philly's
love to have you.
2 hours by train. So if you
Oh,
get
man,
over
that-
there and you just want
that
to
would be fun.
come up, we'll grab you and take you up to Doug's and
Yeah, that sounds fantastic.
feed you obscene diner food.
Can't. It's getting better. It's sounding better as we go.
Yeah, man.
Mhm.
Hey,
All right.
everybody that's here, can you unmute and thank the elderly staff and Doug Proper for just a spectacular presentation. And I want to reiterate what Joe says and thank the guy behind the camera. I mean, your arms must be killing you by now.
Watch this.
So, oh yeah,
There he is.
Hey!
There's Eric.
Awesome. Super
You
job
are
on
a real pro
Yeah.
on the camera.
super job on the
So-
camera. Like it was very relaxing
Unbelievably
watching.
good.
If you've seen any of my videos, for previous videos I used to do in the shop videos, Eric and AJ Glob and Juan Lopez were all the different, at different times behind the camera and making me sound like I know what I'm doing.
Excellent, excellent videography.
Yeah.
I do. Since you did mention that, I do want to bring that up because I'm not a big YouTuber, meaning like I could go months, if not years, forgetting that it exists. And while between when we met in August and now, I have discovered the elderly YouTube channel.
Cool.
And your repair videos are top notch, man. I picked up quite a few tricks from that.
Oh, well, great. That's good.
I'm
Because,
probably the only person who hadn't seen them from this group.
well, maybe. And it's true because
Doug, I
you guys
haven't
are all
seen it.
right in my. We get demographic information for that stuff, and you guys are all right in my demographic wheelhouse. Like,
Yeah.
Guys from 35 to 60 with balding heads and glasses, and gray hair, and
Yeah.
flying shirts. And,
Oh yeah.
that was my demographic. Yeah,
Well,
I killed it.
We've got to appreciate each other because nobody else is going to do it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, so I will definitely. It'd be fun to do one of these when Konkoly Guitars gets up and running.
Yeah.
And for sure, Steve is going to do big things here. He is totally ready to jump on this job, and he's been here he is right now.
You do the rest of the tour.
Yeah, my right hand man for this whole damn time, and the guy who's going to take over the reins and
Baby boy.
century. So for sure.
Dan, I love you, man.
I love you too.
I wouldn't be here without you. You know that.
Well, Joe and
Yeah.
Joe and Steve, I want to thank you both for making the time for us and for a fantastic behind the scenes peek at something that, like I said, I'm still blown away by the organization there, and more importantly, the people in it. So if everybody wouldn't mind who's still hanging with us, if everybody would unmute and thank Joe and Steve and the whole elderly crew for me, I would appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
Thank
you,
you.
guys.
Thank you.
guys.
Thanks so much. Thank you.
That
was amazing, man. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank
Great
you,
job.
Eric.
I had fun. I love the Gabavai guitars in this place. So.
Take care, guys.